Hello everyone, it's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel. Tap the notification bell. I'd appreciate it majorly. So, one more. Well, I doubt it's the very last video, but I've spent a considerable amount of time thinking about the missing person and murder case of Vanessa Guillen, and it's time to let it go. But because this is a lot of things that don't make sense. But I do suppose that it's possible that, that it's just this individual, Aaron David Robinson, who basically, was psycho. But, how you go from sexual harassment, and being potentially reported for having an affair, with a married woman, a woman who's married to a former Fort Hood soldier, which is a serious matter. It is. It has real consequences to it, even jail time, I think, within the military system and so forth. It's no small thing. But how you go from that to becoming a full-blown psycho, of just absolutely viciously murdering somebody, then doing things that even that only people who are just hardened criminals, dismembering bodies, burning bodies, and so forth. It's hard to understand, but it's possible. I mean, that people are just crazy. I mean, the girlfriend assisted. So there you have two individuals doing it. So I guess there you go. There's your explanation. People are just nuts, but and vicious in some cases. So what I was listening to was this podcast of Nancy Grace. This is a different one with some of the same persons that have been part of this case throughout it. Natalie Kwan, the attorney for the family, who's been present for some time now, and Timothy Miller's actually on this as well. And then there's another doctor, like some kind of psychological forensic expert. I think her name is Dr. Marshall. Anyways. So I was listening, mostly it's about Natalie Kwan. That's what I'm here to tell you about. And she describes a meeting she had with CID investigators, some located directly in Washington, because this was immediately following the press conference that they gave on Wednesday after Robinson had committed suicide and her remains were found and so forth. And according to her, Army CID reached out to the family and her wanting to meet and clear some things up after what was said in the press conference and so forth. And actually, two other investigators that were directly involved in this case basically Skyped in. So it was a meeting of like 4 or 5 men, she describes, and then 2 investigators that were Skyping in from a remote location from Fort Hood, that were, I assume one of them might have been Phelps, the guy who gave the press conference later in the week on Friday. Maybe not, though.
Joe and we met at the JW Marriott. I got an executive office space. April 22nd, Vanessa did go to work. Aaron Robinson met her in the Armory room. And Aaron said was sexually harassing her. She goes into the Armory room to do her work. Pictures of Cecily, his girlfriend. Just background information. Cecily is married to a former soldier. So Vanessa said, well, you can't marry a person. It's not only wrong, but it's also against the military rules. It's not right. I have to report it. He said, no, you're not. You're not going to ruin my career. He said he grabbed the first thing he could find, and that was a hammer, and started bludgeoning her head over and over. She wasn't getting knocked down quick enough, so he kept on bludgeoning her head, skull. In the Armory room, the whole place was filled with blood. He took her body and put it in I want to say Pelican brief. He wheeled it out. He put it on the side of the Armory room. He went home. 6 p.m. comes around. He enters the base. He takes her body. He takes it to the lake or the river, puts it there, and decides he can't do this by himself. He can't, bury her. He needs help. He calls his girlfriend, the Cecily girl, the one who is, and he calls her. He says, get in the car. She gets in the car, and he tells her, I have Vanessa's body in a Pelican brief at the lake. I need your help to bury her. They go to the river. They go to the river. They first try to light her body on fire. They try to burn her body. They can't burn her body. They're having a hard time burning her body. And they decide to take the machete out and start macheting, dismembering her whole body. They try to destroy it, try to put it in different places, bury it. They use some kind of quick dry, some kind of cement a product, and they do a shallow grave, put the cement on it, and they get rid of basically the evidence. They threw the machete out the window. By the way, with her phone, they destroyed her phone and threw it out the window. They threw the hammer out the window when they're driving. This is what they're saying. They go about their business. Ironically, this all happened between 1 and 4, about midnight to 4 in the morning when they were burning her body and dismembering her body with a machete. That time was when Vanessa's sister Myra was arriving at the base. While she's looking for her sister, they are dismembering her body. Just really disgusting and very. I cried just listening to this whole story.
So, you can see it seems to be pretty edited what she tells there, and I think that's because they're not allowed to give out everything or something like that. I'm not sure if it's for liability reasons or what, but I believe the individual, she was told that the individual left that Armory room to go get towels and things like that to clean up, came back, cleaned up. But it happened all within a span of 43 minutes. I don't know how that the Army knows that. I'm fairly certain that that's what she was told, that the crime from beginning to end took 43 minutes. And, other persons in the podcast that are participating in this, have a difficult time believing that he could have cleaned up an entire crime scene like that. For somebody that he had smashed their head in, would have been blood everywhere and so forth. She says that she saw pictures of Cecily Aguilar on his phone, and then she confronted him with it. It's hard to compact all this into I think we're just, we're all over the place and we're taking data from different moments in time and doing tons of assuming and stuff like that. But that's kind of how she describes it. I think. How she would know that Cecily Aguilar was a married woman to a former, Fort Hood soldier just by seeing photos on his phone. I don't think that's possible. But my guess is that she had been looking into it herself. Nancy Grace kind of did some speculating on her own. I sort of agreed with her on that matter, which was that. Because they're still contending that Aaron Robinson was harassing this woman, and that was harassing her sort of habitually. And Nancy Grace basically was speculating, and I agree, because I had thought of it before I heard her say it, is that, maybe Vanessa was being harassed by this individual, but knew in the Army it's very difficult to report these things because it's basically he said, she said, and the Army doesn't like to deal with these things unless there's concrete proof. You just almost make the matters worse, for yourself. So, but this was a way for Vanessa to have something that's concrete that she could absolutely prove and get this guy off her back. I think, that's what the story is, and I can almost believe that. I really could. That actually makes some sense. How somebody who's afraid of being reported for having an affair goes from, dealing with it by just going to full-blown murder and some of the most gruesome stuff that's just absolutely sick, evil, depraved, is like I said in the very beginning, is maybe it's just insane. It's just sick, possibly. The other problem, but the problem I do have with that is that when the investigation began, into the disappearance of Vanessa Guillen, when he was interviewed, and naturally he was going to be interviewed because he was like the last person known to see and interact with Vanessa Guillen before she went missing, is he immediately, when, his alibi was the girlfriend. His alibi was the same girlfriend that supposedly he was afraid of being exposed of having a relationship with. In fact, he, according to the affidavit, in the the arrest document for Cecily Aguilar, he says he went to his off base residence where he lives with his girlfriend, when he was questioned about where he was that night. And she's totally his alibi throughout the investigation until it eventually started to break down. It says that on 4/28, USA CID interviewed Specialist Robinson. Among the things he said concerning his activities on 4/22/2020, Specialist Robinson stated that after he finished work, he went to his off-post residence he shared with his girlfriend, Cecily Aguilar, and did not leave the rest of the night except around 6:30. When he had to come to post to sign on to a government computer to enroll in training. So, I guess he just if that version of events is what happened, at that point he needed an alibi and was just hopeful that they wouldn't put two and two together, that she was the spouse of a former Fort Hood soldier, and at that point he didn't have much choice. But that part of that story still kind of bothers me a little bit. I will say, you look at, and she was married. I don't know. Her husband's listed as separated on his Facebook page, and she actually changed her status on her Facebook page to in a relationship on February 22nd of this year. But even in one of these posts on this Instagram, one of these two Instagram accounts on February 20th, the husband is actually there expressing his love to her. So it wasn't that long ago that they were still, or at least the husband believed, a happily married couple or whatever, and it could be that he was no longer a soldier at Fort Hood, but he was at another base in a remote location, and I don't know, who knows? I don't know, but they followed each other on Instagram, so that's if Vanessa managed to figure this out, and that he was saying a married woman, and I'm sure there's probably other soldiers that knew, and people just know, and it's just she picked it up on the rumor mill, but they didn't hide it so much on their social media. They followed each other there, and even on his Facebook page here, and this is from June 26th. This is from days before he killed himself, etc. Before Vanessa's remains were found. She likes one of his things here. At one point, she was displayed as one of his friends on one of her social media accounts. I thought it was a Facebook page, but some of the stuff has been taken down. But this is him. Believe me, that's him. Even though I think one of these pictures is from Houston, or not Houston, from Austin. Austin. Doesn't matter. But in some of these photos, I will say, literally, it's the days immediately following on the 24th, the 27th, because supposedly they went out there, early morning hours. The 23rd was the first night that they burned the body, dismembered it, put it in separate graves, then came back on the 26th and did it again, dug it back all up again, burned it again. And there's posts in here that are on the 24th and the 27th, and she seems completely unfazed. It's pretty shocking, obviously. I think this is from the 24th. No, that's from the 27th. So that's the day after the second time that they went out there and finished it, with hairnets on, and literally dug it back up all again, like I said. But even, that's the 24th right there. That's the day after, and so... And same thing, 24th. I think this is the 24th as well. It is. And she doesn't seem too broken up about it, obviously. It's terrible. How horrible. And that's the story there, man. That is the story there. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. And I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.